Everyone, when it comes to software engineering, when you are asked to design a system, okay, when you hear about securities, you will be hearing two important terms. One is authentication and one is authorization. Okay, so basically what is authentication? So authentication is proving an identity of yours so that you can access an application. Okay, and authorization is like when you are in the boundary of the system, when you have logged into the system. Okay, and what all resource you can access in that system. Okay, so let me take an example, real time example, and then explain you. So let us assume you are out on a business tour. Okay, and you have your home, okay, which is guarded by a security guard. And in your home there is an issue with one of the rooms where the electricity is not working. So you have contacted an agency to provide an electrician. Okay, that electrician comes to your home. Okay, and he will be questioned by your security guard to prove his identity. So when he will be asked for his identity, he has to prove his identity, okay, through any ID card, government issue ID card, or something which has been issued by the agency also. Then your security guard will collect it, get it verified through a call or anything, or if he has a copy of that, okay, he will get verify it against that. Okay, and once the verification is done, and the person, the technician who is there at your home, he proves his identity, and then he will be allowed to get into your premises. So once he's into your premises, then he will be allowed to access only the living room. Okay, because the issue is in the living room only, and we don't, you as a owner of this house don't want the electrician to access any other rooms here. Okay, so when and though these rooms which you see R1, R2, R3, these rooms are locked to him. Okay, only the room which is accessible to him is living room. Okay, so when you deny access to R1, R2, R3, and you provide access only to the living room, this is called authorization. Okay, the electrician is authorized to get into the living room only and go and fix the issues there and get out of that room. Okay, so when he's getting out of that, then he is out. So we say the user has logged out. So in the real, when it comes to software engineering, the same thing happens. You as a user, you are requesting an endpoint or a data, okay, of an employee or a user or anything. Okay, so once you request for data, you have to prove your identity. Okay, so the server asks for your credentials. Okay, the server collects your credentials, verifies with it with the database. Okay, and once that is verified on successful validation, okay, that your identity has been proved, then the server will assign you the roles. It will load your context, it will create a roles for you. Okay, once your context is got created, you will be allowed. Okay, you are logged into the system and you will be called as a principal. Okay, as long as you are logged into the system, and you will be allowed to access the resources which are there. Okay, there will be different endpoints. Say that you are allowed to only read some data, but you are not allowed to delete a data. Okay, in that case, your role is you can read the data. Okay, that is authorized to read the data, but you are not authorized to delete the data. So this is how authentication and authorization works. Authentication is nothing but you have to prove your identity, whereas authorization is you are given permissions to perform something on the application. So let me make you understand the different terms which you hear when it comes to security. Okay, let me pull up the slides. So these are the terms which I will be trying to explain it to you. Okay, so one is the authentication, authorization, subject, principal, user roles, and user groups. So what is authentication? Authentication, this is the first step in any security process. When you plan to design a system and when you hear about a security, okay, and you have to create a security module, then the first thing you hear in the security is authentication. Okay, authentication is a process of identifying someone's identity by assuring that the person is the same as what he's claiming for. Okay, and authentication can be classified as knowledge based authentication and possession based authentication. So let me tell you what is knowledge based authentication. You have provided your username and password, okay, which you know, okay, and which were assigned, created for you and assigned to you secretly, and you remember that, and only the system remembers that, and no third party remembers that. So when you share your username and password, when your server asks for that, you provide them. Okay, then server collects it and verifies this against the database. Okay, and when then on validation, okay, you proved your identity. So when the server has stored somewhere the username and the password, okay, in that case we say it as knowledge based. When it comes to possession based is something like you have a device with you, okay, and the server will be sending out, and server knows that the device is with you, okay, and server will be sending say that a pin code or an OTP to your device, and it will be on login, it will be sending you, and you have to enter the same PIN or OTP which you have received. So this is called possession based. You are in the possession of that device. Okay, and so let me get into the different ways of authentication. One is the password. Password as usernames and passwords are the most common authentication factors. If a user enters the correct data, the system assumes the identity is valid and grant access. Whereas when it comes, this is actually passwords are nothing but knowledge based, okay, authentications. And the next one is the one time pins. Okay, one time pins is grant access only for one session or a transaction wherein it's valid for a certain time, and you will be given some pin, okay, through or OTP through your mobile or email. Then comes the authentication apps, where the authentication apps generate security codes via an outside party that grant access. Say let's take Google Authenticator. Okay, Google Authenticator will be in sync with your application, and each time you will be asked to provide a code on login. So you have to take the code which is generated by the Google Authenticator, and you have to enter it. Then comes the biometrics. Biometrics is like a user has to present security codes via the user has to present his fingerprints or eye scan to gain access to the system. Okay, then comes a single sign-on. Single sign-on is a way to enable access to multiple applications with a single set of credentials. It allows the user to sign in once, and it will automatically be signed in to all other web apps from the same centralized directory. Say that you have an account in Google, okay, when you log into Google, so you will be seeing there are different modules which are provided by the Google. There is YouTube, there is Google Drive, there is Google Sheets, Google Slides, and all. So once you log into one account, then you have one particular module, and you are able to access all the web apps provided by the Google. Okay, then next comes the social authentication. Social authentication does not require additional security. Instead, it verifies the user with existing credentials for the available social network. Say that you have a Facebook account and you are logging into a gaming website. Okay, so the gaming website will give you an option: either you create an account, or if you have an account in Facebook, log in through the Facebook, and it will log in through the Facebook. Okay, you can log in through the Facebook, and your profile will be created with the basic information shared by the Facebook. Okay, your account will be, and the basic profile will be created for you in the gaming website. Okay, then comes the authentication factors. Okay, so authentication factors, it depends as per the security levels and the type of application. There are different types of authentication factors. Okay, like first, single factor authentication. Single factor authentication is the simplest way of authentication. It just needs a username and a password to allow a user to access a system. Okay, we like what we saw, username and password. Okay, or else it could be a pin. Okay, only one level of security you have to do. Okay, when it comes to two-factor authentication, as per the name suggests, it's a two-level security. Okay, hence it needs two-step verification to authenticate a user. It does not require only username and password, but also needs unique information that only a particular user knows. Okay, such as first school name, a favorite destination, or your favorite superhero or your comic hero. Okay, apart from this, it can also verify the user by sending the OTP or a unique link information. Okay, on a unique link on the user's registered number or address. Okay, next comes to multi-factor authentication. This is the most secure and advanced level of authorization. Okay, and it requires two or more levels of security from different and independent categories. This type of authentication is usually used in financial organization, banks, law enforcement agencies. This ensures to eliminate any data exposure from third party or hackers. Okay, say that you are logging into your banking website. Okay, so you will be asked to give your username and password. Once you are done, you will be also receiving an OTP. Okay, that will be a session based. Okay, and you have to enter it within 10 minutes. Okay, so this, and your username and password is and you will is a knowledge based, and this pin is also knowledge based, where the system provides an OTP. But both you have is on in different independent platforms. One is on your mobile, one is what you remember. Okay, then comes The authorization. What is authorization? Okay, authorization is the process of granting someone to do something. Okay, like I said you in my real-time example, you have called for an electrician and you are telling him he has to go to the living room only. He's not supposed to. His access is denied to room 1, room 2, room 3. Okay, so so what is authorization? Authorization is the process of granting someone to do something. Authorization usually works with authentication so that the system could know who is accessing the information. Okay, so basically there are different authorization techniques. One is the role-based access control. Okay, role-based access control technique is given to the users as per their role or profile in the organization. It can be implemented for the system to system or user to system. So let me tell you, you are a developer in your company, and you have the permission to read the code and commit the code. Okay, uh, but you cannot delete the repository. Okay, so you can read from the repository, write it to the repository, but you cannot delete the repository. Okay, so since you are a developer, you don't have that access. But whereas the admin of that repository, okay, he has access for all of the three. He can read, he can write, and even delete it also. Okay, this is called role. Developer, you are restricted with one of the role. Okay, whereas admin has all the roles to do everything. Okay, then comes the JSON web token. Okay, traditionally when it comes to the login, right, each time you have to log in, what happens is like the server had to remember the session. Okay, what it used to do is like it used to create a session ID and fill it in as a part of cookies and send it back to the user. Again, from the user, it had the cookies were coming back to the server, and from the cookies, the server used to read the session ID and it used to validate and it used to identify this is the logged in user. Or else, once the session, if the secure cookies got deleted, so again the server used to force the user to do a validation means basically it used to ask for an authentication. So to overcome this, and if there is any downtime also, if the server loses the uh, session ID, then it was an issue. To overcome this, there is a thing called JSON Web Token. Okay, so what is JSON Web Token? JSON Web Token is open standard used to securely transmit data between the parties in the form of JSON objects. Okay, the users are verified and authorized using a private public key pair. Okay, so here the identity of a user, okay, keeps on exchanging between the server and the user. Okay, and this token is valid for a certain period of time. Okay, it's a short-lived token. Okay, and there is time to live for this web token. And the next one is OAuth. OAuth is basically used, it's an authorization protocol which enables if there are two microservices communicating with each other, okay, then OAuth comes to the rescue. Okay? Basically, OAuth is used in these scenarios. So in my upcoming sessions, okay, if you like and subscribe my video, okay, I will be taking sessions on JSON Web Token and OAuth, and I will be explaining you in real time how it works. Okay, so for now, I'm keeping it short, and because we are covering the terms and the context which we hear, so that is what I'm doing here. So, let us see what are the difference between authentication and authorization. Okay, authentication and authorization is like purpose. Authentication basically verifies the credentials. Okay, what you have seen, whereas authorization grants or denies permission. Okay, and authentication is done through passwords, biometrics, one-time pins, or apps, whereas authorization is done through policies and rules. Authentication is performed before authorization, and authorization is performed after authentication. Okay, and authentication is done through ID tokens, and authorization is done through access tokens. Okay, please ignore the last line. Okay, so once when it comes to this authentication authorization, right, you will be hearing these terms. Okay, subject, principal, user, all these terms evolve through a sequence of events. Okay? So let us go back to our example. The technician was at the door, okay, and the security guard and was there. Okay, there could be a salesman also. All these persons who come at the door, we say them as a subject. Okay, so what is subject? Subject in security context is an entity that requests access to an object. Okay, basically these are the general terms that are used to describe the parties involved. As a result, one entity makes an access request while the other serves the request receivers. Okay, so it's like example, like I said, when you log on to an application, you are the subject. Okay, and the application is the object. Or else, if I go back to our example, when someone knocks on the door, the visitor is the subject accessing the information, and your home is the subject for which the access is requested for. Okay, basically, to summarize, subject in a sentence is an actor to the system, and the object is the thing acted on. Okay, So next comes a principal. Principal is basically a subset of subjects after successful authentication. Once the subject proves his identity, okay, and he's successfully authenticated, okay, then we say it as a principal. Basically, what happens is like when you, like example, once the authentication is successful, here the system, the application will assign that subject with some unique ID, okay, his roles into the system, and what is like say that what is session time and all, okay, some kind of unique ID. Like example, when you present your credit card, you are the subject, okay, and the account number which is very unique to you, okay, is the principal. Okay, principals may present, okay, represent as human users, automations, applications, or connections. In other context, your user ID or state issued identification is your principal. Okay, so it's basically remember in this way, this is an unique identifier which is assigned by the system to you. Okay, basically it's a logged in user. Okay, it could be anything, it could be a logged. Okay, and next comes the user. User is more specific than an subject or a principal. Okay, in that way it usually refers to an interactive operator. Okay, most cases user is an instance of a subject that resolves to a principal. Okay, so basically it's a user is an instance of a subject. Okay, okay, it's derived from the subject. Basically it's a subject only, okay, that is resolved to a principal in most cases. Okay, we say that a user is an interactive operator. Let's say that your uh, user interface, it is also accessing a resource. Okay, and you'll have you know what is the user. In most cases user we refer it as an human. Okay, in real, in when it comes to software, this. Okay. And what is the user roles? User roles are, like I said, you I like, if I go back to our example, okay, we have a GitLab, okay, and we have different roles in it, like commit code, read code, and delete repository. Okay, these are the different three roles. Okay, so when I make a list of these roles, I say it as user roles. Okay, different role, there are three different unique roles, and when we put it as a collection, we say as a user roles. Okay, and what happens is like these user roles, okay, say that you have a team of 5 developers. Okay, and each time a developer joins, okay, I have to assign these two roles, three roles. One is denial of delete repository option. Okay, and the other two are read and write permissions to the user. So when I do have to, it's a tedious job. I each time I need to assign to the user. So what we do is like, you create a user, okay, and create a user group called developer. Okay, to that developer you assign the developers who are there. Suppose out of you have a team of 10 members. Out of that, 5 are the testing team, from the testing team, and 5 are from the development team. So you take the subset of those 5 and create a group, say the group as developers. Okay, and to that developers group, to that group you assign the roles. Okay, that is read, write, and denial of delete. Okay, so tomorrow if there is an updation to the rule, okay, or if you are removing the rule, you don't have to sit and edit all the users. You just go and apply it on the group, and that will apply to all the members in that group. Okay, and this is how the user groups work.